welcome to Live with K0BJJ. I am not alone tonight. I actually have two guests, including one that started me down the rabbit hole that we're going to talk about tonight. But before we get to them, I want you guys to look down at the description. And just above the description, there's a like button. Smash the like button for me, please. Share this out if this is stuff that you think other people would like to see and get not. But down in the description, I labeled everything better, and we actually have a crafter from Iowa that makes Morse code bracelets, and a link for her store is down below. So go check that out. And I know she does special requests, so get a hold of her if you have something you want a Morse code bracelet for. With that, we have Chris, which I need to unmute. And we also have Paul. Hi, Paul.
Hi, guys.
So this was not supposed to be Paul's first time on the channel, but I was supposed to interview him, I think, a month ago, and then I ended up not going to the event. So
tonight works.
So tonight works. But tonight's topic, feeding all my addictions, and Paul started me down a rabbit hole that has quickly become one of my favorite addictions, and that's chasing National Weather Service balloons. And I say chasing because I have yet to recover a single one. I'm 0 for 2.
They look like this, Ben.
Yeah.
This is what you're after.
I actually had to pull pictures to show my son what we were actually looking for. So, and there, my guest, my KM9V, the Unlucky Ham, my favorite British American in the chat tonight. Confuses everyone when you make contact with them because everyone thinks they're getting UK and they're getting Mike. But, oh no, it's the last couple nights I have been hunting down these balloons, and right behind me, to the other side, sorry, my Yagi is sitting there, which I did not have with me the last 2 nights, but I had with me this morning, and only used it for about 10 minutes before the transmitter quit transmitting. So I'm getting into this rabbit hole, but Paul, you got us started on IRO about this. If you can share your screen, do you want to talk about this a little bit more? I am literally just getting into this, and you know a lot more about this. So why don't you talk about, and I hate to put you on the spot because, we didn't even know you were going to be on here until like 15 minutes ago. But why don't you talk about what rabbit hole you got me started?
It may have even been less than that.
Yeah. So
let me start out here. Let's just do the entire window here because it'll probably be easier.
Yep. Go ahead. Present whatever you want to do. If you need me to do something.
There we go. So, yeah. So let's start out here just a little bit. We're talking about National Weather Service balloon radio sondes. There's a couple different pronunciations. Some people like to say sonda. Some people just say sond. I'm going to say sond. So if you prefer sonda, I'm sorry. It's what it is. So these are launched all around the world. And there's a worldwide community of folks who hunt these down as they're launched by the local weather service, or in some cases governmental organization, sometimes even private. And in the case of the U.S. sondes, they're launched twice a day from 95 sites in North America. And so as K0GR says, it's like geocaches falling from the sky twice a day. I'm still stealing his words there, but that's exactly what it is. So what we're actually looking at right now on the screen is the flight that came out of Omaha, Nebraska earlier today. It landed just northwest of Creston, Iowa. You can see that here, and we can see the last reception here from it, and we can see that N0BKB is out, headed to that location. So he's trying to track it down. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, there's some ways that you can get a little bit closer. You can use the method that Ben has been using, which is kind of watch. Hopefully you see it go overhead and then track it down, or go into the field while it's still transmitting, using your antenna to DF it, direction find it. But these are really pretty cool. I'm actually running a feeder station, so this is my local feeder here, so I can actually see everything that I heard from that location. And the last distance I had on that was 129 kilometers at almost 2,900 meters altitude, and that's AMSL. I also received a sonde out of Minnesota today, and so you can see the portion of the time that I had it being decoded from my location. So there's launch sites all over the place. If the best site to use is this Sondehub, SONDEHUB.org. And if you go out there, you can see what is panned just a little bit left here. So we see the flight for today. We can see all the stats on that. But where I'm going is I wanted to show you guys the ability to predict where these are going to be coming. And this is around the world. So if you find the little gray open circle that indicates a launch site, if you click on it, it will give you information about it, what type of sonde is launched, what frequency it's on, and what the launch schedule is. From there, we can go back and look at historical flights, or in this case, we're just going to generate some predictions. And so each of these red lines is a flight, again, twice a day. So the numbers correspond to the flight number. I'm just going to zoom out here. You can see the whole map's peppered with these things across the world. So if we zoom in here, sorry, it's is flight 1, which is 12 hours from now approximately, is set to fall fairly close to the last one. Flight 2, flight 3, flight 4, and these are updated daily as the wind predictions change. We can see some of these take a fairly meandering path and fall fairly close to the launch site, and some take a little bit longer to get there. So in general, that's just a high level view. I can go way down the rabbit hole if you'd like, but that's where I think I'd start, Ben, just to get things started there.
All right. Well, I saw Clint joined us, and I didn't want to pull him in until after you got done with your explanation, because I figured it was going to pop us up on the side. Clint is awesome. Clint and Paul are like the two people that are like my experts. I guess you could say. Ooh, and Jeff's joining us too. We got a full house today. So, Clint, is there anything you would like to add to Paul's explanation? If we can hear him.
He just messaged me offline and said that it froze his laptop, so we may not have it just yet.
All right. Well, I will remove him from the stream. And then maybe if he messages us or whatever. So
I've got him up on Signal, so if he messages, I can jump on there. So we can get as far down the rabbit hole as you want, Ben. I can show you some tools that we've got that make hunting a little bit easier. I can show you.
Is that LoRa device that Clint told me I need to get earlier?
Yeah. So this is.
I'm going to put you center screen. Hold on.
Okay. I'll unscrew the antenna just so it's a little bit easier to see, and I'll go ahead and zoom in there just a little bit. So you can see that this is set up here for 403.21. We're not currently receiving anything because we're in my basement and it's 130 kilometers away. But this little device, it's a LoRa device that has been flashed with some custom firmware. My Sonde Go is the site that has firmware. They've got a nice little app that goes along with it on the Android side of things, and we'll just get to a nice screen here that you guys can actually see what's going on. The nice thing about this is it actually decodes the raw data directly from the sonde itself, and will display that point on a cell phone device. So what you can do is with the antenna actually go to the field and you'll get the latitude, longitude, and it will plot it on a map, so you can essentially almost walk right to the sonde itself as long as it's transmitting. Now, recovering it, it may be in a tree, it may be any number of places, but that's the fun of it there. So
It might be in tall
that's
grass that we
that's
can't
very
see it.
helpful.
No.
What's that?
They said it might be in tall grass that we can't see it, and it quits transmitting 10 minutes after you get there.
Absolutely,
If I had
absolutely.
one of those LoRa devices, that would have been easier. I see Clint joined us back in, so I'm going to add him again.
Yeah, maybe he's able to get a good connection here. So there we go. We've got Clint. So so yeah, that's the little LoRa device. There's custom firmware. There's a link to an AliExpress. It's a $20 device. It's pretty reasonably priced. Drivers, and then you just flash the firmware onto the ESP32, and magically it starts decoding the radio sonde.
So, Clint, I don't know if you heard anything that Paul had said, but
no, I'm actually on my phone, my laptop. The website froze it for some reason.
Oh,
yeah. So no, I just kind of heard about 3 seconds of that. So
basically,
Paul said we're talking radio sondes, and I jumped on.
Well, it's because, and I put it out in IRO because you guys are the ones that started me down this rabbit hole. Anyone that has questions for these guys in chat, just put them in there, tag me or tag someone so that way it gets our attention. But this essentially is fox hunting supported by the National Weather Service. I mean, come on. How else do you explain it? I mean,
I like to describe it as it's more like geocaching, except for 2 new ones fall out of the sky every day, and you get a trespass.
If you get caught.
Yeah. Well, you can trespass. You just may not go to jail for it.
If you get caught.
Yeah.
I'm not admitting or denying any behaviors that may have happened in the last 48 hours. But, so yeah, one of those LoRa devices is probably going to be in my future, just because we have gotten close to 2, and I have no doubt in my mind that we were probably 50 yards from the one last night when it came over the road. It's just without a full moon, it was next to impossible to see it.
Yeah,
we got ourselves positioned about, what was that, Clint? About 140 meters from its actual landing point. Pitch black. We tried to spot it with a flashlight, just couldn't quite make it happen. One of my bucket list items, though, is to see one of these actually come from the sky. Unfortunately, and it's been kind of cool, it's been insightful, is the upper level winds change so much. Sometimes one of these balloons may actually end up in Illinois, twice as far as what these are. Other times they end up actually going west, which I had no idea that the upper level winds did that. So all summer long, we've had this lack of balloons, and suddenly about a month ago, I messaged Clint. I'm like, it's balloon season again. And so it was back on, and we're out chasing. And Clint's got some stories of some that he's recovered. One that, what did it take you, Clint? 297 days from the original launch to track that one down?
Yeah, I had been hunting, and I was driving down the road, and something caught my eye, and I did a U-turn and went back, and I found one of the payloads hanging on a power wire on my commute. And Paul's holding it up there.
Yeah, I'll put him center stage again.
I watched that thing from about March until September. It hung on that wire, taunting me for like 6 months. And one day, driving along, and it's like, wait a minute, I don't see it. And I turned around and went back, and it was laying right there in the road ditch. So let me, Paul, if we're going to show radio sondes, hold on.
Here comes the bragging rights.
Yeah, he's got an arm load.
Wow. Now, is that still government property, or is it like once it falls to earth, it's up for grabs?
Yeah. So what's kind of cool is they used to want them back, but I'll read the actual label here. It says this is a radiosonde, a balloon-borne instrument used by the NOAA National Weather Service to obtain data aloft for weather forecasts and research. Capital letters, it is not dangerous. And then the magic words are, please do not return the radiosonde to the NWS, recycle or dispose of properly. So that's what we're doing. We're recycling / disposing of properly. And what's kind of cool, I should bring it up here real quick. There's a reverse engineering group that has been working on this particular radiosonde to basically turn it into a high altitude balloon / APRS tracker. So there's a lot of information out there. This is recessim, RECESSIM.com, and they've got a lot of information out there for it. There is a GitHub that they've been able to modify firmware for a different device. Vaisala is a different manufacturer. These are produced by GRA out of Germany. And the RS-41 Vaisala firmware has been adapted, and it's currently in a pilot phase. It does look like it's going to be successful, and that is, let me just bring it up here real quick. Actually, that's the software that I'm using for a feeder. We can talk about that if you'd like, Ben. There's also a, find it here. This is the RS-41NG GitHub site. And so they've added now support for the DFM17 from GRA. That's this guy here, and it's still in very much experimental phase. But the exciting thing is, this has got capability of receiving multiple GNSS signals. So that includes all of the constellations up there, not just the GPS constellation. So very accurate position, altitude, all of that information fed out, which is makes it ideal for a tracking device.
I was going to say, Paul, I know you talk with your hands, but if you're going to start showing devices again, I was going to have to go to a different display because I just got your screen full thing right now. So every time you grabbed it, I was like, do I need to flip the display?
No, all good. All nothing of substance necessarily there. So.
Oh, now Clint's messing with something.
Well, I was going to show you the LoRa transmitter that I'm getting to Ben.
Yay! $20.
15.
15.
Yeah.
I was going to give you a tip.
15 for you. And I think that's because the screen's a little wonky, but it'll work perfect with the app. Normally they're about $20 on AliExpress. I've actually got them up here as well if you want to show the screen.
Sure.
Here's a little information. I can send you links, Ben, too, if you want to include them in your show notes.
Yeah, please do.
So it's this plus shipping, and then that doesn't include a battery, so you do need a little small lithium-ion battery.
Oh, it does include a battery.
Well, Ben's will, yes, but this one does not. Ben's getting the full package deal here. So.
And I downloaded the app. I'm ready to go.
Yep.
You are set. You are set.
You do need to get a case because that's how I got the screen to not work right. And it's got to be like one pin on the screen cable is disconnected, and I can't see it with my magnifying glass to tell what could be wrong. So it functions just fine. The screen just isn't as crisp as it used to be.
I see we have, is that a question or a comment? Has anyone dug in? I'm going to put this on the screen. Has anyone dug in and figured out the operating voltage, or if the battery is salvageable and rechargeable? I think they're talking about K0BJJ is talking about the sonde itself, I believe.
Yeah. So the batteries are a commercial off-the-shelf battery. It uses a CR123A, a pair of those. I think I've got a sample here. I don't.
No.
But it uses, you're all good. It uses a CR123A primary lithium. So You could, I guess, grab those and shove them in your flashlight that maybe takes those. But they're once they're dead, they're dead. They're not rechargeable lithium. So
I'll open one of these things up and show you the batteries.
Ooh. Show and
there you
tell.
go.
Show and tell.
You'll need to cut the label, Clint.
Oh, this is I thought I had this one open.
Oh, okay.
Well, maybe not. The previous version actually ran Energizer lithiums, AA batteries. It was kind of weird. Oh yeah, this is one that's been wet, so it's kind of orangey. Let's see, where's the camera? There we go. Yeah, so they're just in there.
So in essence, I could put new batteries in this thing and get it to transmit again if I really wanted it to.
Yeah, you absolutely could. Keep in mind, we're not licensed to use this frequency range. The 400 to 406 megahertz range is not one that we're licensed for. That's where this firmware that is being worked on by the RS41 NG team allows it to swing up into the ham bands and end up usable for our own purposes. So. And the fact that we can pop new batteries in it is a bonus.
I just find it amazing because I picked up last night's the one I chased last night while it was over Atlantic, up about 100,000 feet. Just height is might when it comes to radios, and I think that proves it. That Atlantic's like over an hour from me. I can't reach that with any. I can reach that with HF, but I can't reach that with VHF, UHF, and here it is, a UHF signal that I'm getting halfway between me and Omaha because of the height.
Well, and keep in mind too, these are super low power. This is less than 100 milliwatts, so less than a tenth of a watt that's actually being transmitted here. So super low power, but like you say, height is might. Think of the fact that here, I think I showed earlier, I was receiving. In fact, my best reception. I think is close to. I'm going to bring it up here real quick. Bring up the history. We'll just sort on my my last range maximum here, 52 kilometers. Now I only got one packet off of it, but if you look at where this is at, it's really kind of cool. It happened to be on the same frequency as the Omaha Weather Service office. I picked that thing up. Granted, it's 30,000 meters up, so it's 100,000 feet, top of the flight, but over the middle of Lake Michigan, and it launched out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. So you can really get some pretty cool. This is just there's nothing special about my station. It's a dual band Comet GP9, so it's not even great at overhead stuff. It's really a low horizon antenna, and it just runs all the time, and you can see the ranges there routinely topping 350, pushing 400 kilometers, and then the one kind of outlier there at 552 kilometers.
Yeah, and you guys are exactly northeast of me right now with that balloon.
Yeah, Chris.
There you go.
Chris is out there in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm right here in Sheboygan. So I mean, you guys go northeast. That balloon's right there in the middle of the lake. It's probably about 5 miles out.
Yeah, since you're there, let's take a look real quick. We'll jump up to the Green Bay office, and just as I showed for Omaha, here are the predictions coming out of Green Bay. It looks like most of them are heading across the lake, but during the summertime, I would expect those to shift to the south and west. So the entire was that Fox Lake
Fox
area
Valley.
there would be
it's Fox Valley right there.
Would be in prime range because they tend to shift very close there. Yeah.
Run the 2023 history.
Oh yeah, let me do that. So this is again a magic of the site here. I'd mentioned the historical. Let me just grab all months, or sorry, that's all years. Let's do 2023 all months, and then we'll fetch. This will show where every one of those flights landed So there you go. You might have to go swimming for a few of those, but there's some not far from you that landed.
John had another question. He was
every one
wondering
of
what
those
the
is a flight out of Green Bay in the last year.
Okay.
John had another question. He was wondering what the firmware mod as a way to use it as a dedicated APRS unit. I think you already touched on that, Paul. With that firmware mod
it's a little ways. Yeah, it's just a little ways off. So if you go out to GitHub, I'll send you some of these links, Ben, so that you can put them in the show notes or somewhere else. This is firmware that is custom for this particular device, the DFM 17, and it should allow it to, as long as you've got a good clear visibility of the sky to get a GPS lock, it should be suitable for APRS on 70 centimeters. So that's the caveat. You're not going to be on the standard APRS VHF frequency. But if you're doing, let's say, a custom event or something like that you want, standalone, or if you're doing your own flights, high altitude balloon flights, it would be an ideal option for those.
Interesting.
I never expected that the Green Bay Weather Service would be flying down this way. I figured it'd all go east or west. Not so
well, and
much.
that's what we learned this past summer is it was really surprising out of Omaha. That's the office that launches for us.
Yeah.
Not all weather service offices launch, but Green Bay is one. But during the summer, the winds aloft really calm down, and they tend to fly, very close and even to the south and west, which is something that I didn't expect at all. So it's been educational to see what's out there. That link that I brought, or screen that I brought up, you'll see all of the open dots with a white circle. Those have not been recovered. They'll turn to a gray dot, and I'll just zoom in here so that you can actually see one. So this one here with the gray dot, or with the dot filled in with gray, that one has been recovered. But all of these other devices landed, and it'll give you the information about it. You can actually get the flight path and who last received it. That will allow you to do some predictions. Clint's had great success with tracking down balloons that landed over the winter, so that crop fields are out, they're open, they fall down and they're there, and maybe 3 months, 4 months later, you go out and interpolate where it fell, and even though it's not transmitting, it's kind of using your geocaching skills that it was headed this direction, and you can get there and find that. So.
Nice.
Yeah, I found that the higher it is last received above the ground, the farther it'll be from where it predicts. It tends to predict short. So what I've had the best luck is to go to where the prediction says it landed, and then go downwind from the direction it was traveling. And I've gone as far as, half a mile probably at the farthest to find it. So, I found several that were 3-4 months. I actually found 3 in one day. A couple of them I'd been eyeing, and then one that was laying on the ground for probably a total of 10 minutes. I was driving about 2 miles from where it landed because I could tell where it was headed, and I popped out in the dark and nabbed it. So that was my 3 recovery day.
And my son and I were joking last night because anyone that was watching us move on this my Sunday, because I was broadcasting with my recovery effort on there. I was joking with him, like, we're going to get right in front of this, because my whole goal was to get a lag line of sight, because I wanted to see if we could get behind it, because it looked like it was going to land right on the road for a little bit there. And then we got to a part where we're paralleling it, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, you'll know we find it if all of a sudden we hear a thud on the truck. And like I said, we had to be 50 yards from this thing when it crossed the road. We didn't have to be far. I mean, we were right on its path.
Yeah, it looked like it went over your head a couple 100 feet.
Yeah, no, it was
Yeah, I'm surprised if you weren't out of the vehicle. If you had been out of the vehicle and looked up, I'm pretty sure you could have seen the red glow of the LEDs go by, because when I find them in the dark, typically what I locate is the LEDs on the bottom lighten up the residue around it.
Good to know. See, I'm making notes of this because I had my oldest running the foot recovery effort because I had my youngest with me and he was in the truck, so I really couldn't leave the truck. But now I know more what to tell him to look for.
So another ham radio tie-in. My last recovery was actually off the roof of Power Film Solar.
I need to talk to them and see if I can get them on the stream sometime.
Yeah, it landed on their roof, which is only about a mile from my house, and I went back the next morning, and the balloon and the parachute had blown off the roof and was laying next to the building, but the payload was still on the roof, and so I just gave a little tug on the cord, and it came down.
Nice.
Yeah. Paul, you need to tell the story of your first find.
Oh, we're going to go center stage for this one. Paul. He's looking at something. He's working on something. Oh, that's not.
Who's that? Me?
Yeah. Did you hear? Did you hear Clint? He wants you to tell the story of your first find.
Oh, my first find. Well, that one was a little interesting. So we were what was that, Clint? Early February, and we'd been introduced to this by a mutual friend, NU0I, and had started kind of tracking these things, and one landed fairly close to us, and it looked like it was out on the Big Creek Reservoir at Big Creek State Park. And so I'd looked up some ice measurements and some other stuff, and the ice was definitely safe. There was 8 inches plus in the thin areas, and in some cases it was close to 12 inches of ice. So I called Clint, and originally I told him my plan that I was going to go track it down, and he wisely said, "Hey, you want a safety guy?" And so I decided that was probably in my best interest, since this is 8 o'clock at night. So at 9 o'clock, we roll up at the reservoir down there, literally pitch black, cannot see a thing. And I'm out on the ice with my antenna trying to DF the thing. I can tell you that the radio sonde laying on the ice, the signal seems like it's coming from everywhere all at once. So I was around this thing in circles. I probably walked 3 miles that night out on the ice with my yak tracks on, and eventually tracked it down. It had gotten stuck inside some trees that they had placed out there for eventual fish habitat. They had big concrete blocks tied around them. They dragged them onto the ice, waiting for the ice to melt, and they'd fall into the water and sink down and make good habitat for the fish. But a little after, I think it was after about 10:15, it recovered it out in the middle of the lake here. I'll zoom in and show you where that one ended up being. It was quite the adventure here. So Polk City there, and out in Big Creek State Park, Big Creek Lake, and ended up recovering it out here just off the point here. So had it been summertime, it would have been in the drink. But because it was wintertime, it landed on the ice, and that was my first recovery. And from there, it was, again, just like you've been, kind of down the rabbit hole.
That one was trying to go home. That's not far from National Weather Service.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fairly darn close to them.
We could have waited till morning, but the problem we had was we were afraid one of the ice fisher guys, because they were out there, they were swearing up a storm, having a good time out on the ice when we were standing around, and we knew as soon as sun came up, one of them would see this bright orange parachute and go over and investigate it. And so we had to get it in the dark before they came out and saw it.
Yeah,
And at
that's
that
what.
point, just like you, Ben, the transmitter would have, the batteries would have been deader than the transmitter. So you're just
Yeah.
looking for the orange parachute at that point.
So now knowing more about this. Sorry, I moved my camera. I'm used to my camera being like over here, and I moved it over here because this is the chat I'm watching more. How big is that parachute, Paul? Hold on, I'm taking notes here.
So here's that parachute if you want to show it. It's probably 3 feet diameter. So I'll just do here, arm to nose, about 3 feet across. And sometimes this one got kind of fouled here, so you can see they'll sometimes fall fairly quickly if the parachute lines get fouled. This one did a little bit. We've had some that have come almost straight down that we've recovered. But very inexpensive little parachute, and they'll end up, out in the field. Cotton string, so it's a very heavy cotton line, and then on the end of it is the actual sonde itself. So this is one that I've had kicking around here. This is a more recent find that I've got. For those that are curious about the innards, Clint showed his. I've got one that I've taken apart a little bit more. There's the board itself. So there's a nice little U-blocks. See if it'll focus. And it doesn't want to that close. Nice little U-blocks, GPS device, STM32, a bunch of chips. Again, the reverse engineering side's got more details on it. So.
Yeah, don't underestimate the length of that rope. It's got to be 50 feet of rope, I swear.
Yeah.
The payload and the actual parachute and balloon remnants are usually pretty far apart. I have found them where they were no longer connected. I think the farmer had done tillage and just happened to find enough of the pieces that I found the payload. Because that's, to me, the parachute helps you find it, but the payload is what you have to find, because you need the serial number off of it to confirm the find. And then, we should probably go through how to report a find.
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, let's demo that, because we don't want people out collecting them and then not telling the rest of us they got it, and we're out looking for something that's not there. So.
Yeah, so what we can do, and I'll bring it up here, is again from the National Weather Service site, and I'll show an example here. Is I'll get back to our location here. Each of these radiosondes has a serial number, both that it broadcasts on the air, and you'll see it here real quick. Is this serial number that's broadcast in each of its individual packets is unique to that particular device. And the easiest way to do it is to go into chase mode, which when you do that on your phone or a mobile device, shows up as you saw here with N0BKB. And so you'll show a little car icon. That's what we were watching with Ben the other day. Ben's little car driving around. We can see him move. It's live. You can see the other chasers on the map. So if you've got multiples going for it, you'll all show up. Really what it is the courtesy to let others know that you recovered it and that they don't need to go look for it. And so on the back of each of the devices, if you want to pop that up, Ben, there's a serial number that's shown here, and that serial number corresponds a portion of that. So you'll get the 23 and then the 026 131. So what you'll do is you'll go in chase mode. You'll have an option to report a find. And if you want to pop back to there, I'll enable this chase mode here. This will turn me on. Actually, I don't have GPS enabled here. Sorry, I can't do that. So you'll enter your call sign, and then when you're done, you'll report the serial number here, whether you had recovery success or not, whether to use your car position and any notes. So a good example here, let's just bring up one of these recent finds here. He didn't give us any notes on that one, but this was recovered by KC0MFW. Let's see if there's one here that is another recent recovery here. Who had one? Mike, N0BT did. So we'll grab him right here. So here's N0BT. He reported, this was on Veterans Day, and he notes 200 yards off the road in cornfield. And so that's his recovery there. And it initially shows up gray rather than colored, and then it will turn that dot. If we look at the historical data, it will fill that in that gray color, so that all of the other folks out there, and not just hams, but there tend to be a lot of us that are hams, then know that that's been recovered, and not to bother to go looking for it.
Explain the car position, because that sometimes is misleading.
Yeah, so the car position is if you've got location services enabled, and unfortunately, I'm actually using a work laptop here that disallows location services, so I can't use my location here and enable. But the car position would be your actual position on your mobile device, that car position that's on the map. Otherwise, if it's off, you can report the actual latitude and longitude of your recovery. It's easiest just to put yourself in chase mode using your mobile device, use that car position to report, add any notes, and then whether it was a successful recovery or not. Anything else to add on that, Clint?
Yeah, just that it's kind of weird that it says car mode, because if you're out walking through a field and you find it significantly differently than where it was supposed to be, then you want to use that car mode to mark where you found it, even though you're not in your car. So that sometimes is kind of weird how that is labeled car when it should be more labeled device.
Yeah, because if you have your phone, you're 300 yards out in the field off the road. You have your phone, you're going to peg where you're at, not where your car is.
Your car's gonna look like you're off-roading to everybody following along.
Not saying that ever happens.
So,
never.
I've noticed that I pick one up and then I didn't report it in the moment, and so on a Windows computer you can spoof in the browser your coordinates, and then you can report it of the location you actually found it at, and not necessarily at your house or the last position that it was at. So I figured that out. I can't do it on my phone, but if I come back and use a Windows PC, I could spoof the coordinates in there.
So just talking to you guys, I already know where I made my mistakes at the last 2 nights. I did not account for drift after we lost the GPS, because I was going right to the last known, which means the one this morning is definitely down at the bottom of a tall grass area. And the one from yesterday, or the night before, is potentially in someone's yard. So
there was a question, Ben, on the IRO Discord from Chris K0BJJ. He wanted to know what I'm using for an antenna and what I'm using for a feeder at my house. So that's probably the next. I've kind of alluded to it here, but if you'd like, I can show my screen here yet again and describe my feeder in a little bit more detail here. So what I'm actually using right now, and I've just recently upgraded my station, my feeder is what I will call it here. So I've got an antenna on the roof, and it's not dedicated to this. You can get pretty fancy with an ASL rotator, Yagis to point right at the device. This software is fully capable of that. This Radiosonde RX software is fully capable of that. You can run it on something as simple with a single, actually up to 2 radios, RTL SDR dongles, on as simple as a Raspberry Pi 3. I was successful with that, feeding both of those. I recently had an opportunity to buy a used Comet GP9 antenna. Again, it's got a very long range, very low flat pattern, so it doesn't do great with sondes that are directly overhead. In fact, sometimes I'll kind of lose them a little bit, but for long distance, it works exceptionally well. That comes down and into currently using an AirSpy R2. The nice thing about the AirSpy R2 is that I can actually spin up multiple decoders at once. So you'll see that I'm scanning for all three of the closest National Weather Service sondes at all times. And then I've left myself open with 4 additional devices. Now, the catch is it needs more processing power to drive that radio. Otherwise, you start dropping samples. So in my case, I've actually got a Intel N5105 NUC that I'm using, and that is because it's got more horsepower, is allowing it uh, to decode multiple streams at once. So basically from there's some configuration, and I push all of that out to the internet, and that's the data that then shows up on the Sonde Hub tracker. So if you look at the little green dots, and there keeps getting more of us, which is pretty awesome, you'll see my station here, the last contact that it had, and a rough description of the feeder. So we've got a number of us here along Highway 30. If you zoom out, you'll see a lot here outside central Iowa. They're literally all over the map. But we've got they tend to start to cluster. You get someone that starts to do it, and they get their buddies interested in it, and it kind of fills in. So you can see those areas on the map. If you look, there's a good cluster of folks up around the Twin Cities that have started to get interested, and a couple guys down in La Crosse. There's some gaps in our map though, where we could use more feeders. So if you're in an area that there's not one nearby, the more feeders you get, the more accurate the data, because you've got folks who are receiving it fairly close to the ground. Last night I lost it, or the other night, I guess it was 2 nights ago, Ben, when you were out chasing yours. I lost it at about 1,000 feet off the ground, which isn't bad at the range that I had it. But if we had someone closer, then that feeder can get that data almost right down to the ground. The one that Clint alluded to that landed on the roof of Power Film Solar, I pinged him. As soon as it landed, I lost it, but I had it literally to the last second of the landing. And I showed Clint the location, the GPS location. He's like, yeah, that's exactly where it was when I pulled it down. So it's remarkable. But consider setting up a feeder. It can be super simple. It doesn't take much. Raspberry Pi 3 works. You put the software on. If you're familiar with Docker at all, they have a Docker container that you can spin it up very quickly, or you can do a native install. And a $20 RTL SDR dongle, and any kind of exterior antenna, and you can have a feeder on the air in just a couple of hours.
I might have to get a feeder up.
Yeah,
I was trying to get NUB involved. I was talking to him because he's got a 3D printer, and I need a case for this device I'm getting. So I was already talking to him, like, hey, what would it take? If I got you this thing, how much would you charge me? He's like, well, I gotta see this. He's like, and half the time he just gives me stuff anyway. But still, I want to pay him for his, filament at least. But I'm like, hey, this is something that, because he was talking about doing almost, I don't want to say Arden. Was it Arden? He wanted to do something like that from his house. And I'm like, dude, you actually might be into this. And so I was kind of telling him about it, but I was hoping maybe we can get a station up here in Newton. That would be nice. Get one of those up in Newton. Because then we'd have
anywhere that's open on the map, we could use additional feeders. Not that having feeders close to each other is at all an issue, but the more we can spread out, the more we can get. There's some that I've been tracking, and I've lost them. The last reception I had on the at all is west of Dubuque at 10,000 feet, headed east, and it landed probably somewhere either in far southwest Wisconsin or northwest Illinois, but we don't know just because of where it was headed and the winds that are there. So
I don't know if you guys know Dave PLV, but he finally, with the help of the guys down in Indianola, he got his station back up in the air.
Woohoo!
So I actually talked to him this morning as I was trying to go recover one of these today, and I was chatting with him about the pellet repeater. So welcome back on the air, Dave, and welcome to the not K8MRD, but the K0MRD down in Norwalk. So, no, we got about 9 minutes left of the stream. Any questions or anything from anyone in the chat, on the screen? I know, Jeff, this is probably the quietest stream you've been on, but I think you're learning quite a bit.
Yeah, I've been paying attention. I've been looking at Delaware and Wallops Island. There's a bunch coming out there, and place west of DC.
So that's the other thing you touched on. Let me just mention that is there. It's not just the National Weather Service that launches these balloons. It's really kind of cool. I'm going to bring up my my website here real quick because I've got a story here about a mystery radiosonde. Clint back in March said, "Hey, what's this thing?" And so we get looking at it and ultimately determined that this was a balloon that was launched by a company that launches commercial and military high altitude balloon missions called Aerostar. And it was odd of where it came from. And so just as the balloon prediction runs forward, it'll also run backward. And so you could see roughly where it might have come from. So we're looking at this thing. We're like, what the heck is this? I did a little research, and ultimately we end up stumbling onto a high altitude balloon launch that flew across the entire state of Iowa. They threw this up before. So you mentioned Wallops Island. Prior to a launch, you'll see just a stream of these sondes going up, every 30 minutes or every hour as they're sampling the high altitude conditions in advance of a launch. So some of the folks that are near either Cape Canaveral, SpaceX down in Texas, or out near Vandenberg, all of a sudden the map will light up with just 100 launches in a very short, hundreds, an exaggeration, 30, 40, 50 launches ahead of a flight. And it's pretty cool to see. So you may not be able to recover, but you can absolutely feed those and get a heads up on the flight that's coming. So this is just a little story from my website of one that it was a different type, and the track that was there. So I SSH'd into the feeder and was able to confirm that I'd very briefly tracked it, and it wasn't just an artifact. And another feeder out of Omaha had picked that up. So it was kind of fascinating there that we stumbled on it. But you mentioned Wallops Island. That's what kind of clued me in there, is that adjacent to some of these facilities, you'll have a great opportunity to get even more than the 2-a-day launches, and of different types.
I noticed one the other day that launched out of Area 51.
Yes.
Cool.
So I was waiting for something UFO to take off out of there.
Well, they got the race coming out of Vegas here soon, so someone was bound to be looking at something. Sorry, I've been seeing IndyCar race updates from Vegas and how they've torn that city apart for the race that they're going to be, the race they're going to do right down the strip.
Cool.
But,
I probably have win the prize for the weirdest vehicle driven down the strip.
What'd you have?
It was a semi when I was in college. I drove the semi for the solar car team.
I would say that would be interesting.
Yeah, I got my ham license to go on the solar car race.
Apparently, I got sent a text.
Yep. You know who else was on the solar car team for Iowa State? N0HR. We probably all know Pat.
Hey!
Yeah.
Yeah, he was out doing some POTA this weekend. He's always doing POTA. He's the POTA king of Central Iowa. I've dubbed him that.
He's only been doing POTA for 18 months, if you believe it.
He lives, eats, and breathes it.
Yeah.
At least
We got him out to one of our Skark in the Park activities, and he was packing up, and he's like, that was pretty cool. And it was game on from then.
Have you noticed the trend here, Ben? We like to push people down rabbit holes. POTA, radiosondes.
No. He described it wrong. We pull them down with.
Oh, we pull them down the rabbit hole. That's what it is.
Wow.
We're reaching up, trying to get out, and we pull others in.
Well, I'm going to say this since
Train your
we're a few
eyes on
minutes.
this, Ben. You can find it.
I'm going to. I am
Yeah,
going
it's
to.
like mushroom hunting. When you try to find morels, you got to study pictures of morels, so you got the image burned into your brain before you go out.
You know who else is going to be studying the images from tonight's stream? He's in the other room because he's my foot hunter.
The harmonic, huh?
We were expecting when we saw the orange parachute, and I'm expecting a small parachute. This thing's quite a bit bigger when it's fully open.
Oh yeah.
So no, we should have been able to glance out in the field today and be like, "Yep, it's not out there." At least
I've
the parachute
spotted
ain't.
one
We
with
should have known it.
binoculars at a half mile.
Okay, yeah, that definitely helps. And I do have binoculars showing up tomorrow.
One of us.
So about these, I will be doing some video content on it, but the majority of my son hunts are actually going to be over at my Buy Me a Coffee. So I threw that briefly up before. This is going to be exclusive content for my supporters. So I'm probably going to do a couple days. I'll probably put a couple on the main channel, but I'm not going to lie. If I can chase one of these and I don't have anything stopping me, I'm going out chasing one of these. So it's kind of like my storm chasing. If it gets close enough for me to bite, I'm gone. So, but yeah, like all my recoveries and stuff, all that is going to be exclusive content for my Buy Me a Coffee crowd. I might have one or two on the main channel, but I'm not expecting these to be real great, long, great videos. It's going to be like, hey, look what we found. This is where we found it. Okay, goodbye. So a little special stuff for them.
Make them short.
It'll be interesting. If one goes towards Collins, then we might have a race on our hands.
I'll just call my people up in Collins. Little small town justice here. I need you guys to circle this area, and if you see this guy, he don't go through. Ben will be. Oh gosh, what did Dave just put in chat? I just saw something. Ben will be like SpaceX putting the net on top of. I might start driving around with the truck bed open with the top with the thing with the cover not covering it. Just because, why not? Like I said, last night it looked like this thing was going to go right on the road, so I wanted to get lag line on it and just see if I could get it on the road and then it track a little bit further east. It's amazing, though, how that upper level jet can really carry these things because, you know, the predicted for the last two ones I went after was supposed to be on the west side of Des Moines, but as soon as it hit 100,000 or close to 100,000 feet, it was gone. That upper level jet can really carry these things a good distance.
Yeah, I've noticed, Ben, that usually somewhere in the 20 to 30,000 foot range, you'll see them kick up, and I've seen speeds of 250 kilometers an hour on, decoded from my feeder specifically. So it's pretty remarkable how fast they can get cooking.
Paul, this is America. What are you talking about?
Dude, I'm operating everything in kilometers on this. So just deal with it.
He wants you to use freedom units. I get it though.
It's a UK or a German designed unit. It outputs everything in metric, and you decode it into freedom units if you have to. But there's a conversion. Fewer conversions, the better, right?
Well, guys, our hour is up. We could probably go another hour talking about this. So maybe in the future we'll have to. Maybe I get a couple of recoveries and then no. But Paul, it's been great having you. I'm going to have you again. How many subjects could you talk about alone? Clint, you've been one of my mentors when it comes to airy stuff that goes up there in story. Well, you and Paul both have. So we got stuff we can talk about. I would love to have you both on here sometime again. So thanks again. Thanks for Chris for just hanging out. Glad to have you. And Jeff, like I said, this is the quietest stream you've ever been on.
Quiet for me, yeah.
Quiet for you. So
Yeah.
and I did see we had the little. Was that what's her name? I cannot remember her name. Your puppy, little puppy,
Ahsoka.
Soka. I saw you had her. Wasn't she up there with you for a little bit?
Yeah, she was on my lap for a little bit. I popped her up and then I dropped her on the floor. Then
So,
she ran off. I don't know where she went to.
So when I get the links from Paul and stuff, I'll get those in the description below. Again, we'll probably have to revisit this, but thank you all for being on here. This was a bigger crowd than I was expecting for just throwing it out in a chat saying, hey, we're going to be live in 10 minutes if you want to join it. Otherwise, I'm going to wing it. We actually had a good show, guys. So thank you all for watching. I'm going to hit this outro. 7-3, everyone. Have a good night.
7-3.